Estamos con Eric White. ¿Quién no conoce a Eric White? White aquí en Los Cabos for a long time. Tell us how's your story here in Cabo? How did you get here? And
Well,
why?
yeah, I'm originally from Los Angeles. Came to Mazatlan initially, and went to work for El Cid Resorts, Julio Verdeguer.
Yeah, Julio knows him very well.
And I was offered a position by a good friend of mine named Carlos Vasquez to start timeshare or vacation ownership as they call it now, at the Somar properties. And you remember how rustic it was then,
Yeah.
right?
Perfect.
I mean, somebody asked you to go pick them up at the airport, it was a death sentence. You know, nothing was paved. You had cows in the street. You had one stoplight, no movie theater. And so what happened was, as successful as Somar was, and as much as I knew Cabo was the future, it was too rustic for my two young daughters. I had a 5 and 7-year-old, and I promised them if after 1 year they didn't like it, that we would go back to Mazatlan, Sinaloa. And I love Mazatlan. It's magical. It's a 550-year-old city, and it just has a lot of wonderful things to offer. So it was a little too early, but when I went back, my position at El Cid was given away, right? And I went and applied with Ernesto Colpe at Pueblo Bonito, and that was 33 years ago this December. And so I took over Pueblo Bonito Mazatlan as its sales director, and then Neto decided he wanted the executive pool to move over here and make this our central headquarters when we opened Pueblo Bonito Los Cabos. Blanco is the word we use for it. And at that time, he made me corporate sales director. So I still go back to Mazatlan, but Cabo has been home for the last quarter of a century, 25 years. And so that's how I got into it, and I've stayed with the family, and it's been very gratifying. I'm sure you know Neto and everything he's done for both these communities, and it's been an honor and a privilege to be a part of that. My department, sales, has written over $4 billion for the Copel family in the last 33 years. So it's been a very, how would you say, successful run for our group as well. It's been wonderful for me.
If it could be possible to describe what are the main changes that this industry have had in the last 35 years, what would you say how it is changing this industry in Cabo?
Well, I think the biggest change in Los Cabos and the industry in general has been growth. You know, for a long time it was just Finisterra and Ocho Cascadas, you know, as the only vacation ownership.
Perfectly, yeah.
Right? And Mr. Bulnes, you know.
He didn't want it.
He didn't want it.
He a strange thing. Yes.
He told me I had to write $1 million before he glassed in the patio. Our contracts used to fly away in the wind. And so at that time, and I think I just mentioned it on stage, Via Group, Owen Perry, Fernando Gonzalez, Solmar, with Luis Bulnes, Carlos Vasquez as marketer, and Pueblo Bonito, Ernesto Copel. We were the only 3 guys in this town, and we shared the airport, just the 3 of us. And that was really key to their success, because having the airport so much business from it, you could build off it, right? You can invite people to your pre-construction, sell them, and use the money to construct. Now, how do you do that? Because there's now 16 different properties in the airport. And so the biggest change has been growth, but I'm really proud of Los Cabos for putting in the environmental restrictions that, in my opinion, I'm not going to say they've ruined other destinations, but they've compromised it. One of the things Neto got approved here early on was no billboards.
Neto was one of the ones
that was his thing, no billboards. And I think it remains a very attractive rule that he created. In addition, you have to have your own desal plants now to build. But I think that the key rule in Los Cabos that's kept it special is the 4-story height limitation on the water. Because when you have a height limitation of a hotel, are you going to pay that much money for land and put up a Motel 6? You have to build quality and command luxury prices in order to afford to build in this town. So environmentally And luxuriously, I think we're the most luxurious destination anywhere in the world. Where else do you find a Waldorf Astoria in Los Cabos, right? Or a Cape Hotel, or 2 Four Seasons, right? It's extraordinary what's happening here.
What could be the ideal balance? Because there's a traditional hotel, there's a timeshare, but also there are now fractionals and Airbnb that is finishing in the main cities in Europe and New York. And what do you foresee the future for timeshare?
Well, I think vacation ownership is going to continue. Yeah, timeshare. Let's call it time. I'm not afraid to do that. Timeshare gained a lot of credibility with the entry of the conglomeration of the big ones in the U.S. When Disney entered, when Marriott entered, when Hyatt entered, when Hilton Vacation Club came to be, all of a sudden there was instant credibility. You know, the concept of vacation ownership has always been popular. What's not been popular is the way it's been sold, right? And we just talked about that on stage, that Mexico with Profeco, ISAT, are now really regulating the industry, but at the same time, they're also giving it credibility. They have to be responsible properties. Vacation ownership, when you're paying $600 a night on average in Los Cabos, that's on average. It just makes sense to own a membership that's going to save you money. The average client here spends enough in 3 trips to buy a vacation ownership for the next 100 years in perpetuity. So the value's always been there. But finally, we're seeing the responsibility and the honesty and the integrity of corporations here.
Finally, because I don't want to take more of your
quite
time,
all right. It's a pleasure, sir.
What has been your main message at this Foro? What is what they expected from you? Because they expected a lot.
Well, I was just a moderator in this Foro, right?
But anyway, but you are inputting something, no?
My job is to guide it, direct the questions, summarize it, deliver it to the audience. What we typically get in these foros are younger people interested in entering the industry or people in salaried jobs in these hotels looking to transition into the industry. And it's scary, right? Because even though all my employees are nominas with basic payments, you're really mostly commission. And so you're entering a field where you have no safety net. You get sick, you're in an accident, you can't work. How do you pay the rent? How do you pay the school tuition? So it's a little bit of a, still a risky career choice. And my message is, that if you have that in you, if you're that kind of, courage and artist, it's better than it's ever been before. Cabo is the shining example of the best this industry has to offer. When you own at a Pueblo Bonito, or you own at a Garza Blanca, or you own at a Corazon, these suites are spectacular. You go to these timeshares in the U.S., they can't compare. What about the Mexican friendliness? What about daily maid service? What about the ecological protection? And look how much Los Cabos has to offer now with the expansion into the East Cape, the expansion into Todos Santos and the surrounding areas. It's a paradise, and it's being built responsibly. Very, very proud of my industry, the hotel industry in general, and the people in Los Cabos like you.
Yeah, the goals right now for Los Cabos definitely is water, mobility, and safety. Things we are okay, but basically housing for the difference in
Yeah, I think that's still our one weak spot in this sense. As far as housing on the ocean side, very protected, done very well. A lot of these plant developments now can't build without desalinization. So what we're really talking about is the other side. And you have a lot of property owners who have the right to build. But I really, really believe that Los Cabos needs to start enforcing these construction licenses. When you see these kind of developments right on top of the freeway, blocking the view of the other one, well, this is not attractive for anybody, right? Low-income housing has become extremely popular and valuable. You see everything else happening out there on the way out to Todos Santos. So I think that's there. But the amount of taxes that Baja California Sur is paying, when you take into account La Paz as well, which has become a powerhouse, right? To me, I would like to see more of that dedicated to issue number one, which, as you pointed out, is water. Where are the wells? Where are the treatment plants? Why aren't we investing more tax money in the thing this community needs most? As far as safety, we're the number one safest city in entire Mexico. I think we swapped spots with Merida this year, number one. So I think we've got that, and that is the most important element to investment, to society in general. And I think that's happening here. It's responsibility in construction that this government needs to pay attention to, and the water issue has got to be ahead of it instead of behind it. Pueblo Bonito has massive desal plants. We're constantly donating water to Los Cabos, but we can't do it all.
Eric, thank you very much. I don't know if you want to add anything else.
No, not at all. I hope people appreciate the contribution vacation ownership is making. I remember after Odile, the first people that came back were the vacation ownership owners, right? 90% of my sales for Ernesto Copel in full-time real estate are vacation timeshare owners that are now retiring and have moved into our property. It brings people back on a consistent basis. We pay taxes on those sales and on those maintenance fees. And I think this is a wonderful example of the community working together to give back to the society in general.
Really, thank you very much.
An honor to meet you, sir.